Have you ever noticed something strange? The harder many people work, the further behind they seem to fall. Meanwhile, some people appear to get richer every year, even when they're sleeping. And no, it's not because they're smarter. It's not because they're luckier. And it's definitely not because they work harder than everyone else. The real reason is something most people never notice. According to the Federal Reserve, the top 1% of Americans own 32% of all wealth in the country. In the UK, the top 10% own 45% of all wealth. In India, just 1% of the population holds 40% of the wealth. The same pattern repeats in every country on Earth. And the gap is growing, not shrinking. Once you see why, you'll start viewing money completely differently. Why the rich keep getting richer. And nobody talks about it. Episode 6 of the You'd See Wealth Building series. If this one changes how you see money, share it with someone who needs to hear it. The biggest misunderstanding about wealth. Most people believe wealth comes from work. That's what we are all taught. Work hard. Get paid. Repeat. But here's what the data actually shows. The wealthy don't primarily build wealth through working. They build wealth through ownership. If you own a stock, you benefit when the company grows. If you own real estate, you benefit when the property increases in value. If you own a business, you benefit when revenue grows. Notice something important. You don't have to personally work every extra hour for those gains. Ownership scales. Labor doesn't. Warren Buffett has a quote that captures this perfectly. If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. And that single distinction between earning money and owning things that earn money is where the wealth gap begins. Why the gap keeps growing. Imagine two people. Both earn $60,000 a year. In pounds, that is 47,000. In euros, 56,000. Person A spends everything. Person B consistently puts 20% into assets. Year 1, the difference is $12,000. Small. Year 5, 12,000 has become 80,000, plus returns. Noticeable. Year 10, the gap has crossed $300,000, and Person B's assets are now generating their own returns on top of that. Year 20, Person B has over $1.2 million in assets. Person A starts from zero. Every single month. The scary part is that the gap didn't just grow. It compounded. Assets don't just grow. They grow on top of previous growth. And that's why wealth appears to accelerate. Not because rich people suddenly got smarter. Because compounding finally became visible. The game most people are playing. Most people focus entirely on income. How can I make more money? How can I get a raise? How can I earn a bigger salary? Those aren't bad questions. But they're incomplete. Because eventually, there's a ceiling. There are only 24 hours in a day. Only so much energy. Only so much time. And when you stop working, income stops. Ownership doesn't have that limitation. When you own an index fund, it doesn't stop compounding while you sleep. When you own a rental property, it doesn't stop generating income on weekends. When you own equity in a business, it doesn't clock out at 5 p.m. That's why two people earning the exact same salary can end up in completely different financial positions. One buys liabilities. The other buys assets. One stays dependent on work. The other builds leverage. The asset ownership revolution. Look around at the largest fortunes in the world today. AI companies. Technology companies. Real estate portfolios. Business empires. What do they all have in common? Ownership. Elon Musk doesn't earn a salary from Tesla's growth. He owns equity. Jeff Bezos doesn't get paid by the hour for Amazon's expansion. He owns shares. The largest fortunes in human history were not built through salaries. They were built through ownership. And here is the critical point that most people miss. You don't need millions to start. You don't need to found a company. You can buy a share of an existing business for less than the price of a meal. An index fund. A small stake in a business. A skill that creates leverage and generates income without your direct time. The amount matters far less than the habit. The habit of acquiring ownership. Consistently. Over time. What this means for you. This isn't about becoming rich overnight. It's about changing the game you are playing. Most people spend their entire lives chasing income. A smaller group spends their lives acquiring assets. 10 years later, the difference becomes obvious. Here is the practical framework. Every time you receive income, ask yourself, can I deploy any percentage of this into ownership? An index fund tracking the world's best companies. A property that generates rental income. A business that creates value. A skill that generates leveraged income. Even 5% of income directed toward ownership, consistently over 20 years, can produce a financial position most people never reach. Not because of intelligence. Not because of luck. Because of the most powerful force in finance. Compounding ownership over time. The wealthy aren't just earning money. They're owning things that earn money. And that is the secret nobody talks about. Now here's the mistake almost everyone makes. Even when they understand ownership. Even when they understand compounding. They still destroy their wealth with a few bad decisions. And most people don't realize it until years later. In the next episode, we are breaking down the financial mistakes everyone learns too late. The everyday decisions that are quietly setting people back by years. Trust me, you want to avoid these. Subscribe to UDC and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. And comment below, which part of today's video hit you the hardest? The ownership concept? The compounding gap? Tell me. I read every reply.